how early do you recommend getting connected with PT, OT, speech, etc. in terms of symptoms?
So I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier with the speech therapy, but I also put people in touch with our therapies as early as possible. Sometimes I recommend it and people say, well, I'm not really calling or I'm not having an issue. And if they're not interested, that's okay. But if you're interested and willing to go, I would recommend and be happy to put in a referral PT to your speech at any point.
So in my opinion, it's hard to do too much physical therapy or speech therapy, things like that. But, you know, at the Center of Excellence, often you can be evaluated by PT, OT, ST, at least for a brief interaction. So let's say you don't think you have any problems with balance, then they can do some very quick, basic evaluations to see if that's in fact true. And if it is, great, they'll say, keep doing your exercise program. So just having those evaluations on a more regular basis, on an annual basis, may be an easy way to stay ahead of the game.
Okay, share your professional opinions on using certain medications to keep calm as needed, and the struggle with perceived, can't read that word. So basically saying the relief they provide versus the guilt of drugging. Right, so like if somebody is thinking that they might be over medicated or extremely drowsy due to the medication, but they do need to keep calm, how do you find that fine line? How do you decide which is better or most appropriate?
So this can be a really fine line and is really an individual decision with the person who has HD and their family or caregivers and their providers. There was a question specifically, or part of the question specifically about as needed medication, and the as needed medications, the types of medicines that are used for that typically are more sedating. Sometimes those are necessary to use. We try to find a good regimen that someone takes regularly, you know, every day or twice a day. And the medications that are used, what we call standing, which means you automatically take them, are typically less sedating. They can keep help the person stay calm at baseline so that they're needing less of these as needed medications. I think the other thing that I would say about using as needed medications to stay calm is that we always, like our goal is always to maintain safety, maintain the safety of the person who has HD, maintain the safety of the caregivers. And if something is, if the situation is escalating to the point that people are at risk or you're worried that it's going to become a risky situation, then I would frame it as we're trying to keep everyone safe. And I don't think that I think if we think about it that way, we're not trying to control someone, we're not trying to sedate them, we're not trying to make them sleepy all the time. We're trying to keep everyone safe. I would encourage that as sort of a way to think about it, where the goal isn't to sleepy all the time. That's not any of our goal.
And it's not, you know, 0 to 100 miles per hour. So it's not, you know, you go from not needing any rescue medication from one instance to the other in most cases. So using other tools in your toolbox for calming an individual down, helping regulate anxiety, deep breathing exercises, those kind of non-medication strategies can be helpful. But certainly what defining with your care provider, when is it an indication that you may need more help with rescue medication?
Yeah, so I always listen to these questions from the as a social worker, from the standpoint also of behavior and environment. So while these guys are doing their job trying to assess from the medication standpoint, it sounds like the goal here is really to improve what we would call the careability or the ability to receive care of the patient. And if I, as the care provider, if there's issues of safety and but also issues of behavior that make it difficult for the person to receive care, then we have to go into this period of looking at medications. But the other thing, and this comes out of the dementia world, which we know, is that a starting point is always also doing an environmental assessment. So for a lot of people with neurological conditions, there's issues around stimulation. And sometimes it's too much auditory stimulation, sometimes it's too much visual stimulation. So, you know, for instance, am I the caregiver and I have a hearing loss, but I love the TV on, so the TV's blaring all day, and I see agitation in my loved one? Or is there a barking dog next door and that all of a sudden seems to set my loved one off? But looking at anything in the environment that also might be making matters worse, because sometimes there's some relatively easy fixes there if you look at it from that standpoint.
Can I chime in a little bit? I have noticed with some of my loved ones that the different medications in the same family have different effects on different people. Like there's some people in my family that can take one form of a medication, say like Xanax or Ativan, alprazolam, and the other person in the same family can't take that medication, but they can take the other one. And it's due to side effects.
So the comment is that you notice in your own family that some people react differently to the same medication.
The same family of medications, but it's, yeah.
Right, and so that's why, you know, to your point, making sure that you have that communication with your providers. On the flip side, you know, it may be that, hey, I had a family member that was really helped by medication. And so, you know, having that open dialogue is important. That way, you know, also taking the medications for you and not that will prescribe for others.
And I think this speaks also to the benefit of having multiple choices and having multiple medications that potentially can treat the same thing. So the way I typically phrase it to my patients is sometimes you notice someone will say, oh, they prefer for pain, like Tylenol more than Advil, and some people might prefer something other. So it's the same thing. Everyone has different idiosyncratic changes and reactions to things that might make it different, and it's great that we have different options to treat people.
We had a professional in the audience who also recommended about the guilt portion of the question, to have everyone involved in care, caregiver, family members, etc., to track the behaviors, the moods, the different notices that you see about this person, and even like when the medication is given or needed. That way you can kind of look back and see like it was necessary, it was needed, and kind of help support that. There isn't a need to feel guilty, though we are human, but it's a great way to, there's something online that you can find as a mood tracker, like a piece of paper that you can print out, or even an app. So thank you for that.
I think it's also important that we don't always control the emotions that come to us, and so even though there's no need to feel guilty or no one's done something to bring that on, we can definitely feel those emotions. And so care partners also could benefit from having support systems of their own, whether it's like friends and family, social support, or professional support. That's always going to be helpful.
Yeah, that word guilt is always so hard, and sometimes I say to people, well, you know, guilt is reserved for people who've done something wrong. If you've done something wrong, no. Every caregiver is doing the best they can, and yet once illness comes, one of the realities is that perfect goes out the window. Like, none of us handles and does anything perfectly. That doesn't mean all of you who are caregivers aren't doing the very best they can. And so a little grace towards self is always in order. And there's, I really support finding supports for yourself, and you have to identify what that looks like. Maybe it's your best friend, and lunch every week and text in between. Maybe it's, you're a support group person who really benefits from connecting into support groups, and we've already heard what's available here. Maybe that's not quite you, and you know you have some individual issues you need to work on, and connecting with one-on-one with a therapist is what will help you. So there's no one right or wrong, but you do need your own proactive of self-care.
Thank you for that. I get so nervous talking, this is in regards to, the Center of Excellence being like at appointments, but I get so nervous talking. I don't always understand what they're saying. How can I let them know outside of the clinic, or who should I call? And maybe, maybe it's prior, maybe it's, something of that sort. But also, how do I follow up after clinic visits? I don't want to be a bother, but I also need the provider / social worker to follow up on what they say they are going to do.
So thank you for that question. This is very important. So we are here at the Centers of Excellence, or as your primary neurologist, to help you. So there can be clinic-specific ways to get in contact with us. So calling into our nursing line, calling, to schedule an appointment or telehealth appointment. Also web portals or MyChart. And then for the social work, we do try to give appropriate contact information. At our Center of Excellence, it's Lucy, and then she can also then provide additional support information as well. But if you don't reach out, then it's going to be hard for us to know that you're having an issue or have a question, and we can't be as diligent about helping you.
Yes, I 100% agree. It's always appropriate to reach out. Sometimes, I think the question was that part of the question was that I feel bad reaching out, but you need people to follow up. And so it's okay to check in. Sometimes that follow-up takes a while. Sometimes you say, we'll reach out to, for example, another doc that's treating you, and it just takes time, and there's some phone tag that goes into it. But if you want to know where in the process something is, you should definitely reach out. That's what our portal is for, and that's why we give everyone our nurse line and our nurse line, and why you have access. So we're happy to fill those questions. Sometimes the answer might be, this is just a process that takes a little longer, and we're gonna have to wait. And sometimes it might be totally right, we need to follow up on this also, and let's circle back and check.
Also, there are changes, so the plans are not fixed, right? So if something is started or you change your mind about a referral, please just be in communication so that we know if we need to send a referral to a different provider or for a different type of service.
Thank you. Is it necessary for my adult son to legally make me his power of attorney?
Is it necessary for my adult son to legally make me his power of attorney? So, let me just say broadly that for anybody who's an adult, there's a point at which we should all have power of attorney documents in place. I'm not an attorney, and social workers often need to know a little bit about a lot of things, which makes us dangerous, but let me just give you that overview. So broadly speaking, there are financial power of attorney documents and there are medical power of attorney documents. Both of them name what we call agents or people to make a decision for me in the event that I'm not able to. So medical power of attorney agent, you might have to do a case and my husband, adult child, decision should I not be able to. Same with financial, that's a whole separate document. Again, I would say reach out to a social worker for more details, and I can give some of those resources. But yes, it's very important for all of us, but especially if you're diagnosed with a progressive illness, that you have these documents in place. That's part of that big practical planning aspect that I talk about patients all the time. And that's one aspect, along with the state planning and that kind of thing. I know it's a really short general answer, but that is why HGSA, to their credit, has given placed such a huge emphasis on social work services at centers of excellence, because they recognize the need for the ability to have some of these practical planning resources available to patients and their families.
Great, thank you.